you just it's funny because you will find sometimes that, and you know this as well as I do, a lot of times people will tell you things knowing you're a reporter that you would never think they would tell anybody.
Yes,
But they're telling you because they're just getting it out. They're
absolutely.
just trying to get it out of their system, basically. And you can be surprised how eloquent people can be at times like that. You can also be surprised how inarticulate people can be sometimes and express things deep inside of them. So,
There's no doubt.
mm.
Yeah, and you mentioned like being on a scene before the police. When you said that, I kind of thought back. I was reporting for a while in Mississippi, and relatively rural Mississippi.
Hmm.
I wasn't close to much of anything, and we were listening to the scanner in the office. And it's a small town, not a lot of traffic. So if I heard something on the scanner, I was out the door and gone.
Yeah.
And I remember one time in particular, I heard something on a scanner about a house fire, and our office is a block away from the fire department, a block away from City Hall. Everything's right there, and so I hopped in the truck and headed out toward the address. And turns out I got behind the fire truck, the ambulance, all that.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
they're out there. People are stopping on the highway to let them go, and I just happened to be so close to it that they thought I was a part of that brigade too. So I'm arriving on scene with the fire department. People thinking I'm just a truck, that's a part of the fire department as well.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that you get so close to that not a lot of people get to see.
Yeah. There was one time. One thing about the news business, of course, is that you never know where you may be going in the next minute. Because things can happen just very quickly, and then pretty soon, hey, you need to go out there and check this out. I had to go over to St. Clair County one time for a forest fire, and this was, middle of the summer. It's just really, really hot.
Yeah.
And I get there, and I've driven down 15 or 16 country roads until I finally get to this place where they're staging. And I ask a guy, I'm looking for so and so. And he says, well, he's over there. And he points directly to the fire. Okay. And he says, if you go in there, through that, go about a half mile, he's back there. And I look at the guy. I'm like, do I need something? He's like, no, no, no. Don't worry about it. Just go on back there. So, thinking he must know something, I start walking. And within a very short time, I realized that I am surrounded by fire. And I do not have any kind of protective gear on at all, and I'm thinking they're going to need my fillings to identify me when all this is over
Right.
with. And then finally I see this guy off to the side in the middle of the smoke going, hey, I'm over here, you know. And so I found him, talked to him, cough a bit, and then I'm like, how do I get out of here? And he's like, oh, it's over there. And I realized that uh, you know, we are tasked with telling people what's happening, but we do that by talking to people who actually do know what's happening, or we at least expect them to know what's happening.
Right.
And sometimes in our business, I think a lot of us kind of sucker ourselves into thinking that we know the things that the people we talk to know. And I've always tried to remember that, that know your limitations, because one day you may be standing in the middle of a forest fire and not know how to get out. So,
That's right. That is right. So that sounds like one of those kind of bizarre things you've covered. What's some of the most bizarre things you've encountered in this business?
well, a few years ago when I was when I was working in Leeds, it was Sunday night, and there was a fire at a apartment building. And whenever there's a fire in a neighborhood, they shut the power off in the place so it makes it easier for them to, they're not having to put out electrical fires and everything.
Sure.
Well, there happened to be an apartment complex next to this apartment that was on fire, totally separate. Well, when their power went out, somebody in that complex lit a candle, which started another fire.
Oh gosh.
And so I'm standing there, and this was in the days when you phone in you phone in your news. You don't send it over a phone or whatever.
Right.
So I'm standing at a payphone telling somebody this, and all of a sudden I hear screams, and I look across the street, and here's a fire in a totally different complex that I'm looking at. and I have to explain to him, look, I gotta go. I gotta go cover this other fire. What? There's a fire. It's up back on fire. No, this is a completely different fire. Just trust me on this. I hung up the phone. Um, the and when something like that happens now, everything is so instantaneous. Back in those days, you knew that you weren't really worried about the internet as much as you were worried about the next day's paper.
Right.
But I also knew at that moment that somebody's in trouble here.
Yeah.
And of course, there's at this point the fire department's not even there. So, but anyway, uh, that was weird. The uh, that's probably. I mean, I know I've had some other instances. That's one in particular. Uh, I still have people who ask me to this day about a story I had 20 years ago about the Moody spitting cobra. If you recall, a guy who lived in a trailer over in Moody had a cobra that would spit its venom, and this guy was not a he did not work at the Birmingham Zoo. He had this snake in an aquarium, and to keep the snake from escaping, he put cardboard over the top of it, and the snake did not, of course, abide by this.
Of course.
So I go out to cover this, and in those days I wore a suit, so I'm standing out in front of this trailer in Moody, and they're looking for a snake. Okay. And the police chief comes up behind me, takes out his nightstick, and just barely brushes the back of my leg.
Nope.
And, just to see if I was paying attention.
I bet you were.
I was. Well, the ridiculous thing about that story is that by the end of the week, this had gotten so much attention that the city of Moody was fielding calls from the BBC. There was a screenwriter in Hollywood who contacted me and asked me to send him everything that I had written about this. And we had people calling up saying, would it be possible for that spitting cobra to mate with like a snake around here and produce some kind of mutant snake that can't be killed? People were saying, they were citing this snake in their backyard and it was garden hose, and I had to go find people who could say, first of all, they can't mate because they're totally different, uh, uh, body chemistry and everything. And this kind of snake is different than this kind of snake. And besides, the snake can't travel that far. It's not possible. It's I wouldn't say these are the most exciting things that have ever happened to me, but they're the most memorable because, I mean, you can find yourself in a disaster area, but you can also have some little thing. This is the thing that most people don't understand about the news business is the stuff that you work on for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. Sometimes hardly anybody looks at it. The stuff that you work on for 10 minutes sometimes is the stuff that just blows up and you have no control over it because that's the nature of information. People will just take it and run with it.
That's right. So the most important question here is, was that spitting cobra ever found?
No, but they said at the time, and I've held them to this because as far as I know, there aren't any mutant cobras out in Moody. They said that the thing would die at first frost, so I figured that's what happened to it. The guy in question who had the spitting cobra, we asked him why he had a cobra in the first place, and he said religious reasons.
Oh.
So it was a story that had a lot of legs. So.
Absolutely. So potentially died at first frost, but no one has found the remains. So
no.
we can perpetuate this story in Moody, and
yeah.
if there's ever an update, you can have
That's
a 20-year follow-up story here.
That's right. Yeah. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of this story, so probably next year or so. But